All right, we are on page 17 of our notes, and so we're going to use those relationships we just learned about to answer some of these questions. And I'm going to just point out to you in this diagram that these first two lines are parallel. And again, the way that we know that is that little arrow on each line pointing the same direction, whereas this line is not parallel to the other two. And then lastly, that line that runs through all of them, we said that that is what we call the transversal. All right, so in the first column, we're going to answer how these angles are related to one another. So we have 7 options. They're vertical, corresponding, alternate exterior, alternate interior, same side interior, same side exterior, or a linear pair. So just from looking at the picture, angles 1 and 2, they share a vertex, they're adjacent, and they're supplementary. That is a linear pair. And I think the practice I'm asking you to do looks an awful lot like this, if it's what I'm thinking of. So then the question is, are they congruent, supplementary, or neither? So recall that we said linear pairs are always supplementary, just as vertical angles are always congruent. So they are supplementary. All right, angles 3 and 7. So if I look 3 and 7, they do not share a vertex. So that kind of narrows it down to 5 relationships. They are, this is hard for people sometimes, this particular relationship. I noticed that they're on the same side of the transversal, but they're neither both interior nor both exterior. And in fact, when I look at them, what really helps me is to kind of cover up. I'm just going to pull out the ruler just to cover up this third intersection. I know the ruler is clear, so we can still see it. But just like totally ignore that blue line for a second. Just look at what we have here. Neither 3 nor 7, they're neither both interior nor exterior. So these are corresponding angles. They're in the same position. They're both in the bottom left of their intersection. And we said corresponding angles are only going to be congruent when the lines that make them are parallel. So in this case, they are congruent because those lines are parallel. All right, 4 and 9, I'm going to use my ruler to try to help us to cover up the stuff we don't want to look at. I know it's still there, but just pretend you can't see it. When I look at angles 4 and 9, I'm only looking at the left line and the right line. And I notice that 4 and 9 are both on the interior of their intersections. So they're both interior angles, and they're on opposite or alternate sides of the transversal. So 4 and 9 are alternate interior angles. Even though there's some junk in the middle that we're not looking at, 4 and 9 are still alternate interior angles. And we said that alternate interior angles are going to be congruent when the lines are parallel. So if and only if the lines that form them are parallel. So if I drag my ruler back over and I kind of cover this up, the line on the left and the far right line are not parallel. So angles 4 and 9 are neither congruent nor supplementary. So I'm going to use NCS for that. They're neither congruent nor supplementary. All right, next we have angles 1 and 6. Angles 1 and 6 are both on the same side of their transversal. So like angle 1, oops, you know what, this is getting crowded. I'm going to erase and start over. Angles 1 and 6 are on the same side of their transversal, and they are both exterior angles. So that's just what we call same side exterior. And we said same side exterior angles are supplementary when those lines are parallel. So since they are on lines that are parallel, they are supplementary. All right, angles 1 and 4. Those should jump out at us because we learned about them in our last chapter. Those are vertical angles. And vertical angles are always congruent. Angles 5 and 12. So I'm going to ignore this line to the left. Angles 5 and 12 are both on the outside of the lines that like form them with the transversal. And I think what's confusing sometimes, if we look at the line on the left, students will ask me, like, is 5 an interior or an exterior angle? Well, it depends what your other line is. So if I'm looking at angles 5 and 12, 5 is an exterior angle because the interior would be this space between those lines. So in this case, 5 is an exterior angle. So angle 5 and 12 are exterior and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So those are alternate exterior angles. Now, normally, like if those lines were parallel, alternate exterior angles would be congruent. But since the blue line is not parallel with the yellow line, so like the blue line doesn't have the same arrow that the yellow line has, these are neither congruent nor supplementary. All right, angles 4 and 7. Oops, I'm going to move my ruler to cover up that blue line. Angles 4 and 7 are both on the interior of these two lines, and they're on the same side of the transversal. So that's going to make them same side interior angles. Because those lines are parallel, the two yellow lines, same side angles are supplementary. So both the interior and the exterior are supplementary when those lines are parallel. All right, angles 1 and 10. So I'm going to, drag my ruler back if it will let me and cover up that middle line and try to pretend it's not there. Angles 1 and 10 are both exterior angles and they're on the same side of the transversal. So that makes them same side exterior angles. Same side exterior. And then if I look at the lines they're on, those lines are not parallel to each other. Again, that blue line doesn't have the same arrow that the two yellow lines have. So they're not supplementary. They're neither congruent nor supplementary. 5 and 9, I'm going to cover up this side or this angle and look at 5 and 9. 5 and 9, they're not both on the interior because remember for these two lines, here's the interior. They're not both on the exterior. 5 is, but 9's not. They're on the same side of the transversal. That they could only be corresponding angles. So 5 is in the top left of the intersection, 9 is in the top left of its intersection. So 5 and 9 are corresponding. Corresponding seems to be the hardest for students at first. I'm not really sure why. I guess I kind of understand why. They're corresponding, but they're neither congruent nor supplementary. They would be congruent if those lines were parallel, but clearly 5 is an obtuse angle, 9 is an acute angle, and they're not supplementary. So they're neither congruent nor supplementary. All right, angles 3 and 6. Again, I can just cover up, don't look at the blue line. Angles 3 and 6 are going to be both on the exterior of those two yellow lines, and they're on alternate sides of the transversal, so that makes them alternate exterior angles. And you can abbreviate as long as it's really clear what you're abbreviating. All right, and since those two lines are parallel, our alternate exterior angles, we said, are congruent when those lines are parallel. All right, so at the bottom, we're asked to determine some different angle measures. And my advice to you is advice that I've already given you with past times that we've had a diagram. I would label the entire diagram based on this fact that the measure of angle 5 is 137 degrees, and then let's answer these questions. So I'm going to go up here to angle 5, and I'm going to say that that is 137 degrees. All right, so angles 5 and 8 are vertical, so they're congruent. So 8 must also be 137 degrees. Angles 8 and 6 are a linear pair. So I need to subtract 180 minus 137, and I get 23, right? Does that seem right? Oh no, what did I do? That was crazy. I see what I did. That was really weird. I just did a weird math mistake in my head. Sorry, I'm sure that by now I'm rambling on and you have already gotten this. I meant to borrow, but I think I like subtracted in my head when I borrowed. That was weird. All right, 43. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. All right, so those are so 6 is 43 degrees. 7 and 8 are also a linear pair, or 6 and 7 are vertical angles, so that's also 43. So now I could, I know that on the yellow line that my corresponding angles are congruent. So if angle 5 is 137, angle 1 is a corresponding angle, so that's 137. Or I could think of, I know that my alternate interior angles are congruent. So if 5 is 137, so must be angle 4. And then if 7 is 43, so must be angle 2, because they're alternate interiors. And then lastly, I know that this is also 43. So I get this pattern that the angles are, you know, they're supplementary, but there's this pattern that they repeat. On the blue line, though, I don't know any of those angles, because even though there's angles that correspond to 137 or 43, because this line is not parallel to the other two, we don't know any of those angles, and that's fine. All right, so coming down here, we're asked for the measures of 10, 4, 6, 12, and 2. So I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little. So 10 and 12, we cannot determine. So down here, it says if they cannot be determined, write CBD. I'm going to write that for 10 and for 12. 2, 4, and 6, though, are going to be on the lines that are parallel. So 2 and 6 are both 43 degrees. 4 is 137. All right, that's it.